Imhotep, beloveds, I've had a major technical problem this morning, so my sincerest apologies in being in the appointed place, at the appointed place, at the appointed time, but not being able to get through technically. Interestingly enough, we are going to be the plan is to talk about Sakura, and which is that nature very much regarding time. So here he is in his exacting manner of holding us to task in regard to time. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. But let me just shift here and begin by saying, well, we will get started. We will take that plunge, more than just a toe. We will just totally immerse ourselves. And what we want to do, family, is just rove within the first eye, just having the mind very fluid as we begin this morning. And again, once again, grand rising to each and every one of you, and thank you for being here. We are in the process in this Building the Lighted Temple Wisdom series of understanding what is life and death, understanding what is good and evil. And we talked last time wherein I said, you know, when we think about evil, we can think about the misappropriation of energy. And we will certainly want, as we go through these services, to see that when we dispel the word evil, it also has the word live. So we're going to see how this could be metaphysically, that this same, if we think of letters as nature or oracles through which the divine may speak, how is it that a word would have both in it? And then we want to understand in this series, what is darkness and what is light? And I have previously talked about in other services, as well as other videos, that when we refer to darkness, I refer to what I call uppercase darkness, capital D, capital A, capital R, capital K, versus lowercase darkness. And we must make the discernment between what darkness we are talking about, because there's a lot, all of these are things that we have been very spooked up about as a people, and made to be spooked up: life, death, good and evil, darkness and light. And in order to get ourselves unspooked as a step, it's so important, family, to remember that it is out of the noon that the creation stirs and the creator creates. Out of the noon, which has its correspondence with Ka, which our ancestors call spirit. So, and how does the creator create? Ka, spirit, out of the noon takes of the substance of itself. Ka, spirit, takes of the substance of itself to what? See itself in form. Ka, spirit, takes of the substance of itself to have consciousness in form, like us sitting here in these seats. So you can see the form, but there's also consciousness in the form. It's the one and the same spirit. So when we as metaphysicians, as chemeticians, and as we approach this inexhaustible subject of creation, there are some anchoring points that we can hold on to, which is it's all in the one and the same substance. But that one and the same substance gets qualified in particular ways. And that's what we want to understand. And that as metaphysicians is so important as we go along to as I say, suspend, suspend, suspend until you can append, meaning there's nothing over our heads. So as we come in contact with something, some information, and we're not quite sure where it goes, this is why having the tree of life and the macabre energy body of light is that template. It's the cosmogram in which we can learn to append and deepen our understanding in this journey. So as we begin to talk about Sakura, what I want to make reference to is, in this deep metaphysical understanding of Sakura, is that on page 504 in the, as it was so erroneously called, the gods of the Egyptians, we read the following in volume 1. It says that, thus it is clear that Sakura was an ancient spirit or god whose attributes were such that he might well be represented by Set. Not that is that not interesting? Or Suti or Sutech, the enemy of Ra, or by the soul of the earth god Seb. So family, I'll read you that again because that says a whole lot. Our African ancestors have given us the keys. All we need to do is be in this discerning process. So once again, it says, thus it is clear that Sakura. Now let's at first find Sakura. And here we have the tree of life, the linear tree of life, and then we have the macabre energy body of light as I hold up this diagram. And we are going to be moving today, family, within this bar triangle and be with the understanding and energies of Osir, Tahuti, but primarily Sakura. So we have Sakura here, the third sphere in the tree of life. All right. And if you look here, family, for a moment, you'll see that this word here, Ka, in the diagram. Now, why is that word there? Because Ka, which is spirit, takes of the substance of itself to have all of this come into creation. All is emerging out of Ka. And we have Ka here in its inspiriting or spiritualizing aspect. And then we have Ka here in its materializing aspect, because one of the things that we learn as metaphysicians is that Ka, spirit, is matter at its lowest level of vibration, and Ka, spirit, can vibrate at its highest level of manifestation. In other words, all is spirit, and spirit is vibrating at different levels. At its highest, more spiritual aspect, or its lowest, more physical aspect. And family, I just want to, as we go along, I just want you to put your questions in the, we're here, but put your questions in the question and answer. All right, so we can take those questions as we go along. All right, so reading again here, thus it is clear that Sakura was an ancient spirit or god whose attributes were such that he might be represented by Set or Setech or Suti, the enemy of Ra, or by the soul of the earth god Geb. In other words, at a higher spiral. So let's begin to discern the way, because what is so important, as all of us are aware, is how to make application of this ancient wisdom in these very troubled times. And for all of us who've been following what's happening in the news, you know, we see the interval just shortening and collapsing between one event and the onset of another. And things are just happening on top of each other in terms of the planetary disturbances we see, you know, being with the things that are happening in terms of the climate, things that are happening in terms of the epidemic, things that are happening in terms of, you know, what's happening in Afghan, you know, all over there are these disturbances. And simultaneous with just deepening our understanding, we're looking to make application of these Netaru tools that are within us that we want to tap into for guidance, such that we can see the way to install or uninstall those external coping tools that we need to self-soothe and restore balance and renew ourselves. This whole of cosmos is about balance. It isn't about ferreting out some ultimate evil and killing that and then everything is at peace. No, instead it is about balance, and we have to find that balance within ourselves. So we have been moving within the Ka triangle, or the square, the temple, where we've been looking at what's been happening within us physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. We've been looking in that Ka triangle. Then we have been called to look in the Ab triangle because we want our temple to be lighted. So we are learning this infusion process of how to infuse Ab and Ba in that temple, how to knit ourselves back together again, how to unpack ourselves and understand who we are, and to knit ourselves back together again. So we have been standing in the Ka triangle, looking physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually at what is happening within us. We've been moving in the Ab triangle to understand more what it means to be in our Haru, our to be in our office and be fully present in aligning our will and standing in that harnessing the will. And now today we are fully going to shift and glimpse within the Ba triangle. And we did some of that last Sunday as we looked at Osir, and you know, what is the energy of Osir. So when we're in this Ba triangle, this is our Osir is our omnipresence, that all presence. Tahuti is our omniscience. And we go to Sakura now to locate that omnipotence, that power. How are we accessing that power within? So let's be, and this is also, as I have shown you other diagrams in terms of the planes of consciousness, we have here the Ba, the Ku, the Shechem, all right? So we're accessing that energy and looking in that energy today. Now I'm gonna come to Earth with a thud in a moment, but we have to be in these more subtle realms until we see the way to ground, and we move back and forth terrestrially and celestially. So what is it when we are within our Osir? I'm just going to do this briefly. What is it when we are in our Osir, when we are standing in our Osir consciousness? We are accessing the fount of all possibility. When we are in our Osirian consciousness, we are accessing the fount of all possibility. Within that noon, there's infinite access. When we are in our Osirian consciousness, we are in the one true self realized beingness, the fullness of the one true self. And as Osir, we are the drawer of all power, all wisdom, and all pervading presence. In that Osir, we are in an unlimited and unconditioned state of beingness, family, of beingness in a conditioned state of becoming. So we're in an unconditioned state of beingness in a conditioned state of becoming. And you know, and when we are in our Osir, we are in that eternal witness within that infinite all and allness. What does it mean to be a witness within infinite all and allness? To stand and to know that you know, there is no death, that we are this witness of packets of mortality in an unbroken stream of immortality. Let me say that again, because, you know, when we think about what is death, and then what is consciousness, you know, just like when you go to sleep at night, or you're just in that twilight before you doze off to sleep, you can, you know, recount your day. You can hit the rewind and just look at events in your day. I wish this had gone better. I wish that went well. I want to repeat that. We're able to see these frames of our day. But likewise, there is a state of stepping back and witnessing, where we are able to witness these packets, these seeming packets of mortality in an unbroken stream of immortality. Meaning, there is a continuity of consciousness that supersedes being encapsulated in form. I hope everybody is following holding the wording, that there is a continuity of consciousness that is in back of in any encapsulation in form. So I'm just going to continue, and if there's questions, let me just see if there's any. Okay, let me just keep going. All right. And all right, so we learned last week about the natural opponent of Osir is Set, who typified death and destruction, and who was, you know, symbolic or par excellence with the desert. That opposite, Set in every way is opposite Osir. So if Osir has the symbolism of fertility and juvenation and the Nile and water, it is Set who is symbolic of the desert. And we talked about how Osir is this this rejuvenation, this he is a symbol of rejuvenance, which is reanimation, rebirth, regeneration, renewal, resurgence, resurrection, resuscitation, revitalization, revivification. And, you know, in a time that we're living in, where we see seeming death all around us, you know, tapping into this primordial wisdom and this rejuvenescence is so key and so life-giving and so revitalizing for us. And it's so important to be tapping into this source. Now, to move to there too, just briefly, because we've talked at length more about Tahuti. Tahuti is that divine wisdom, that divine ideation, and that supreme intelligence, and symbolizing the underlying unity in the diversity of this creation. And Tahuti is knowledge of the part, the whole, and the relationship between. And it is the divinely intended archetypal design and plan for manifestation, and the perfect, and that manifestation pure and perfect without distortion or flaw. So we're talking about the architectural design when we, and the wisdom of that design when we are tapping into our Tahuti faculty. And this is our omniscience, it is our intuition, and that illumination, that wordless knowing that comes when we tap into this sphere. Now, this brings us, family, to Sakura, which I want to talk about next, because this is where we have to understand what life is in order to know what this seeming death is, or good and evil is. And we have to look at how Sakura at its lowest spiral has a correspondence with Set or Setech, which I mentioned earlier, because it is still in the one and the same substance. So how does one thing, what is the intentioning of substance that is good in one moment, and the intentioning of substance that becomes evil in the next moment? All right, so and we understand that Sakura has his correspondence with Ptah and also Asur. I mean, this, for our African ancestors, these were came to be one and the same, Ptah, Sakura, Asur. They were known as the greatest of all gods, and go back to the earliest dynastic period. And Sakura was regarded as a form of the sun god. His name also is that of engraver. So what does it mean to be the sculptor or the engraver? So I'm going to talk about that in a moment. He was the artificer. He was a skilled and artistic worker or craftsman. One that contrives. So when we turn to Ka'aba, building and light a temple, and we look up the qualities of Sakura, this is what you'll find. And I hope that everybody has this book, as well as a whole host of other books. That Sakura is the vibrational drawing of the circle which contains the greatest good. Sakura is the ring past naught, or circumscribed field of experience in which divine purpose is to be structured and made manifest. So if you think about, family, of going from the fount of all possibility to an archetypal design, then it is Sakura that is drawing the vibrational ring in the circumscribed field of experience in which divine purpose is to be structured and made manifest. Now I'm going to come to earth with the thud and make that plain in the experience this morning, where something happened technically, and we were late. I was late getting started, and Sakura is the space-time continuum. Sakura is the space-time continuum in the, structuring. It creates structure and it sets limits within which full creative potential is to be expressed. And it is Sakura's infinite potential in a vibrationally drawn, boundaried field of expression. Now we're going deeply metaphysical here, but I want to make this plain in a moment. Sakura is infinite potential. So remember, we have the noon, we have all possibility, but Sakura is infinite potential in a vibrationally drawn, boundaried field of expression. So if we think about our building light and temple service today, how does this relate to Sakura? How does this relate to Asura, Chahudi, and Sakura? Well, our meeting is to start at 11 o'clock. And so Sakura draws that boundary, that vibrational field in which is co-measurement. It is drawn. This is why one of his names is the engraver. He just draws that boundary, that ring past knot in which something is to be realized, something is to be manifest. And when we look at what is possible in that time, we can tap into the fount of all possibility and manifest from the fount of all possibility. But Sakura gives us in his exactitude this hour and 15 minutes, and that's it. That is the full realization that can take place in this particular space-time continuum. So continuing, and in Sakura is the authoritative demand for the full vibrational sounding and expression of the one true self. Think about that, family. Sakura is the authoritative demand for the full vibrational expression, full vibrational sounding, because it's about sound, it's about the heka, it's about, the intentioning of matter. The full vibrational sounding and expression of what? The one true self, because we're here to express Asura in what? The to be manifested form. So this form that we're in is this form right here, this form right there that you are in is the authoritative demand for the full vibrational sounding and expression of what? The one true self in the to be manifested form that you are in. And of course, it is Sakura that is moving us in this vibrational sounding of the to be created forms that are fostering our evolutionary process. So we are evolving every day. We are in one form, and then we grow past that, ring past that in our consciousness, and we begin to indwell this greater consciousness and form expression. And it is this ring after ring after ring, or rings within rings within rings, that we move through a successive approximation. We are successively approximation what? The one true self-realized being or beingness as Ausur. So if we don't feel very Ausurian today, you know, we have, you know, we're in the process of feeling more Ausurian tomorrow or as we go along. And it is Ausur and Sakura that is calling us to be exact, to be efficient, to be capable, to be achieving the goal of what? Of what? The archetypal design that is trying to reveal itself. There is a design in all of this. This is not haphazard or happenstance. There is a design. And so it is Sakura that is moving us to be effective and capable and efficient in achieving within that space-time continuum the fullness of the one true self, without diminishment, without truncation, and without limitation. Now, let's give an example of this. And I'm just going to come here and just check to see if it's going. We should have, my husband said, we need to have hundreds and thousands of people here. But at the same time, I want to have a very, I want to know your name. And so this is not about numbers. And if things get so big that I can't know your name, then we'd have to have this more than once a week. So, because that's important, that this is a process that we are all in together. So, and I see a question chat. Okay, just somebody saying, okay, so I'm going to go back. All right, so let's go to that very, in order to understand life, death, we have to understand life. In order to understand life, we will learn about what that seeming death is. So Sakura is how we also transcend this bond or bind or bond and move to the next ring past knot of boundaried experience. So we are always expanding and expanding, or this is how it should be, that we are expanding in that awareness, in that consciousness, in that form that is containing the life, so that we are, at least in this earthly incarnation, we are moving to our serenization of consciousness on this earth, Geb, terrestrial plane. But let's look at a concrete example that, you know, everyone can relate to and come to earth with the thud. So let's, for example, take the baby in the womb. Let's start there. Let's take the baby in its mother's womb. And of course, this is a boundaried field, a ring past knot of where there is manifestation taking place. And it is a space-time continuum, because Sakura is demanding, and it is a 9-month process. So now, as that fetus, as it is called in its early stages, attaches to the womb, the wall, this is a wonderful environment. It is a wonderful sphere or continuum or containment that is offering and promoting life and the nurturance of life. And so we would see this benevolently. We would see this Sakurian holding and the development and the passage of time as a benevolent demonstration of Sakura. But family, let's say this at the 9-month mark, when that time is up, then there is that within that indwelling life that wants to push beyond that boundary, because to stay in that containment then becomes a confinement and begins to and it becomes what that life is now outgrown and outworn, and it begins to no longer serves the life. So at that 9-month mark, we look for a birthing into a next sphere of life and livingness and expression. But what would happen if that were blocked and that birth was obstructed from taking place? Naturally, this would result in injury to the life within. And now there is a documentary, family, of a very well-known family. I won't mention the name because if you want to look it up, you can look it up and I say it off camera. But there's a documentary of a famous family that where the mother was at that moment of ready to give birth, and this was a very patriarchal driven household, and the doctor hadn't come, and the nurse was trying to prevent birth until the doctor arrived. And so, they did such things as just try to hold that baby that was trying to emerge from emerging. Having the mother close her legs. You can read about this yourself, see the documentary yourself. And what happened, what resulted is that it resulted in the birth injury of the child, a later institutionalization of the child, and an early death of that child. So how do we learn about Sakura? How do we learn about life? We learn about how life, even in this example, in its earliest expression, has that beneficence that, if not honored in the next ring past knot of expression, of boundaried expression, can be contributing to death of the indwelling life. Life is ever expanding. Life is ever expanding. And all right, so let's move to the next example. So so now you have, let's say now you have this infant, and and the place to promote this infant's health and development, and to be beneficent with this infant is for the mother to hold it in her arms and to nurture it. And because the arms provide a kind of ring past knot for that child, that infant to develop, that infant to begin to advance along its path. But what if the mother were to just put the baby on a table, and you know what could happen then? The baby could fall off the table and injure itself, or be killed. And so we see one of the things with the lower spiral of Sakura is when there isn't sufficient boundarying in order for the indwelling life to experience the fullness of achievement. So when there isn't the structure or the form, the indwelling life suffers as well. So there is that which contains, there is that which confines, and then there is that which fails to contain or structure. So then you have the infant moving to, as it gets a little older, into the playpen, or a bigger space of containment, but also a place of unfoldment and development. And but what if you came across a family and they had a child, and you saw the child in the playpen and they were 8 years old? I mean, this would be abuse. This would be stifling. This would be misappropriation of energy on the part of that family, and ultimately evil in terms of a practice when life is stymied, when life is not nurtured so that it may advance from one boundaried vibrational field into the next, into the next, into the next. So when we look at some of these lower spirals of Sakura, we see that there's an inability to set or hold structure or limits for self-unfoldment and manifestation, the inability to set limits, the inability to have structure, the inability to build and in a structure where achievement can take place, a lack of a training ground or discipline. And if you think about this, we suffer from the lack of structures. And then so much is focused on this systemic structure that white supremacy has built, which we know does not serve our indwelling life. And yet we are tasked with having to build those structures in which that indwelling life can be nurtured and developed. The white supremacist structure not only doesn't nurture us, like the schools, or but then there are all the structures that are built that are places of confinement, like the prison industrial complex, so forth and so on. So we look to Sakura when we are looking to build those structures, those ring pass knots, those boundaried fields in which we can discipline ourselves, where we have our schools, where we have those places of food production, our financial institutions. One of the ways to think about Sakura is our economy. It is and what is economy? The definition is it's the wealth and resources of a country or a region, especially in terms of the production and consumption of goods and services. So if we think about what is that circle we've drawn in which we can draw from, that that well from which we can take from, this is our wealth, our resources, because Sakura we want to draw the circle that contains the greatest good. We want to draw the circle that contains the greatest good. And certainly a white supremacist paradigm has drawn that Sakurian circle around Africa and calls it what? It calls it the breadbasket of the world. I mean, everybody goes to Africa to draw from its wealth and its resources. So if we could but think about those structures in which we can have the greatest livingness. That's why we have structures, and they are space-time continuums. They have a lifespan in which, because we need to draw the structure for our young people to go in their preschool. That's one structure, African-centered preschools. But then we need to draw the structure where we have universities for our young people that are a different structure than the preschool. And we wouldn't have our college students in a preschool because it wouldn't serve their life, because they have grown beyond. All right, so I am so sorry we running out of time, and there is so much more today or next week to go over in this service, but we've at least put a toe here and taken a plunge to see what is Sakura. It says, please don't apologize. Time has allowed you to give us just what we need today. Well, thank you so much. That may very well be because from Andrea, outstanding definition of Sakura. Well, that's beautiful. Maybe it was just the right co-measure, because this is a lot metaphysically to take in, because it is only when we understand this level that then we understand what I'll talk about next time, because we're going to end just about on time, in that Sakurian demand to be exact, and we're already 2 minutes over exactitude. But just leave you with this, and we'll get to to just say, when we look at the lower spiral of Set, because there's much more to understand about Sakura, but just let's fast forward to this lower spiral of Set and see, family, that Set is the resistance force field countering the capacity and achievement building force field within, and against, what are we doing within? We are working against that we want to be within containment. You know, when you're in college for 4 years, that's well, depends on where you went and what you learned, but just for example, that's a space where something can be unfolding and life promoting. But there is that point where it can become that confinement. So we work within this containment to continue and to nurture the life. And when we hit up against that confinement, we have to move beyond that confinement, and we have to stand in our Haru and confront and be at battle with that which would confine. All right, and we talked about that a bit last week. That which would confine and impede our reach toward greater expanse of light, love, and cohesiveness. And it's when we are hitting that's when we are meeting up against that struggle of seeming life and death. We're hitting up against that. All right, I'm gonna pause a moment there and come back and let's see your questions. And I'm gonna come back to Tim's, and he says, just a question out of curiosity as I prepare for Ida. When you twirl, it's counterclockwise, correct? Is that connected in any way to, yes, it is counterclockwise, and there's a reason for that. What book should we be reading? Here's the link to my books, and also one book I recommend foremost for, you want to get them all, but is to begin with Ka'aba, Building a Lighted Temple. And yes, Linda says, what book should we be reading? Where is the link? So the link is here, everybody. All right. And yes, Tim, we spin counterclockwise when we whirl. And I will want to talk about whirling at length in another Sunday wisdom. Oh, let me just do one more thing. Okay. So I'm gonna show you a picture here. So this was me whirling. This is what I posted last birthday, but it says the Merkaba energy body of light, sacred whirling meditation practice and exercise. So I posted this last year, and it says Dr. Nteri's chronological age, I'm an elder. My vitality age, 11. Vitally in 11. And my soul age is eternity, or Jet Nehehe, because we are eternal. So I'll be posting another post for this birthday and another feat. We're all capable of these great feats if we just happen to the infinite fountain of all possibility for our supply. It is an inexhaustible source. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to go out in the middle of the night and meet with any dealer or anything like that. It is our divine inheritance. So let's quench our thirst. And I again see you next week, and do tell others about this wisdom service, and do become a member. If you've been coming and you have been enjoying what we do here, then do become a member. All right, the work continues. I want to give you this deeper metaphysical meaning. So when you look at the appearance of things, you are able to keep recalibrating and rebalancing yourself, and know that, you know, everything is in divine order. And having said that, I end today with Om Uja Seneb, life, prosperity, and health. Be well. Mir, Asha, much love. Until we meet again.